Now to talk more about that Niners win, Jennifer Lee Chan, 49ers beat writer for NBC Sports Bay Area, joining us this morning. Jennifer, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. Good morning.
Good morning. As all guests are coming to you via the Fire Wings hotline, try one of their delicious flavors of today, Fire Wings. Just wing it. Jennifer, I know you wrote about the run game and specifically Tevin Coleman's breakout playoff game. What did you see from his performance, the blocking, all that with that offensive line and overall Coleman's overall performance?
He was fantastic, but, it's been really interchangeable, those running backs. It can be Raheem Mostert, it can be Matt Breida, it could be Jeff Wilson, it could be Tevin Coleman. So really those guys are interchangeable. What's amazing is how the offensive line, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, all those guys are such amazing blockers, and the scheme that Shanahan puts together really allows any of those guys to have a really great game. So it's really kind of a group effort for all of them. But he was a little bit emotional after the game. It was really good to see him kind of come back after not having a big game since Carolina, really. He hasn't had one of those games since week 8.
Jennifer, if you told me before the game that Jimmy Garoppolo would have 131 yards, a touchdown, and a pick, their leading receiver have 42 yards, George Kittle would have 16 yards, I would have said, wow, who's Minnesota playing in the NFC Championship game? So going into Green Bay now, how much of an advantage is it for Kyle Shanahan to have such a chameleon team, knowing that if they need to run, they can run? And I imagine next week they're probably going to pass a little bit more.
I would think so. It's been different every game, and that's what's kind of unique about this team. When you look at the stats, you've got so many different players who have made sacks. You've had an inordinate amount of players who have scored touchdowns through receiving and rushing. It really is a complementary football team. They've won games different ways all season long, and it's been it's not something you normally see from a team. Sometimes the defense is the reason they win. Sometimes it's the running game. Sometimes it's the passing game. It's really interesting how they really are different every single time. They find different ways to win. I think that's what makes them really good.
I'm curious with Jennifer, if or what would be your opinion on this answer? If all elements played their best, that run game, the passing game, the defense, what is the biggest strength this team has? It's probably that they can do all of it well, but if you had to pick one, what are they best at?
I think right now, with everybody coming back healthy on the defense, it really is the pass rush. If Kirk Cousins couldn't really do anything, they had 4 first downs heading into the middle of the fourth quarter. They had, I think, under 100 yards in rushing. Obviously, if they had under 100 yards, and they had 4 first downs, they had under 100 yards total offense heading into the fourth quarter. So, really that pass rush, if everybody's healthy, getting D Ford back, Quan Alexander, that really is the strength of the defense. That takes pressure off the offense, and then they can do whatever they need to do. They don't have to do much to win, really.
Have we seen the last of Ahkello Witherspoon, at least in a starting role this season, do you think?
I would think so. He was playing really well before he got hurt. He had he's had a kind of an up and down career. Played well at the end of his rookie season, kind of had a sophomore slump, played well his third year, and then came back from injury. And just, I think he's very talented. He's got all the physical gifts that, a corner would need, but Emmanuel Mosley is just playing lights out. He's really come in strong, kind of, a surprise to most people outside the building, and I just don't think they can go back to Ahkello at this point. But, Ahkello's been fantastic up into, the point where he got injured. So both of them are very talented, but I think at this point, with momentum and who's playing well at this time, I think it's going to be Emmanuel Mosley.
Jennifer Lee Chan, NBC Sports Bay Area beat writer for the 49ers. Jennifer, how much of a factor is that home crowd? The 49ers finally get a home playoff game. They will be there again this weekend. How electric was the atmosphere on Saturday?
It was really loud. I don't think anybody sat down that entire game. The funniest moment, I think, was when Bosa had the wind knocked out of him. He was laying down on the ground, and the entire crowd started chanting his name, and he popped up kind of like the Undertaker in a wrestling show and just bounced off the field. But they have been great home and away. Every game they've been loud. You could hear them at the Superdome in New Orleans, and that's really unusual. That home crowd is really loud. It was very loud, of course, but when the 49ers defense was on the field, you could actually hear 49ers chants. They were really loud. So they've traveled well. To have it be a home game is great for the team because, you obviously they can hear when the offense is on the field, and the opposing offense can't hear when they are. So it's been a great home crowd, and it's been great all season for them.
When the Niners take on the Packers this weekend, you throw the earlier game obviously out the window. It's Aaron Rodgers returning to Northern California. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on here off the field emotionally. But when you look at X's and O's, as great as the Niner defense is, they can give up some good rushing. They can give up some good rushing performances. Is Aaron Jones, in your opinion, going to have to win that game along with Aaron Rodgers? Is it going to be basically up to those two Aarons if the Packers want to win?
I mean, those are two huge factors. They did shut down Dalvin Cook this week, so I mean they've got that. I'm hoping that because of that previous win, they don't get too overconfident. That could be the one thing that could, kind of shake up the mentality of the team a little bit. They really handily beat the Packers earlier in the season. I don't think it's the type of locker room that takes that, too seriously. But you also have the Smith brothers on the other side of the ball. So those defenders are going to be tough. The offensive line has faced a challenge last week with Danielle Hunter and Everson Griffin, but they've got another chore to, set out for them this week with the Smith brothers on the other side. So it's those kind of 4-star players that are going to be the keys to the Packers' performance. So you've got, the Aarons on the other side and the Smiths on the defensive side.
Jennifer, who's leading? You brought up the locker room. Who's leading that in there, this player-wise? Is that Sherman? I mean, who has kind of the control of the messaging, of the moment, of kind of that locker room?
I think Sherman does have a really strong voice in there. He has talked to the players, after the game, after Shanahan's message. He gives kind of a little message as well. He keeps everybody locked in. There's a lot of young players on there that this is their first playoff experience. So you've got him. Emmanuel Sanders has been very vocal. I think Joe Staley is kind of one of those lead by example as opposed to being kind of more vocal. But Sherman's definitely a leader there. George Kittle also, even though he doesn't have a lot of playoff experience, obviously, he is just so positive. He keeps everybody locked in and motivated and kind of up. And also Quan Alexander. Fred Warner said that having him back on the field made such a huge difference for the energy. So those kind of 3 guys are really key leaders. And, it's just a really good locker room. From what they went through the last 2 years before this season with, that group that started with Kyle and John at the beginning, they have really been, even when they've been 0-9, they've been still positive in the locker room. They never turn on each other. There's never any internal fighting. It's just a really good group of guys.
On an individual level, personal level for you, did you want Seattle, San Francisco 3, or did it matter to you who they were playing this weekend?
I mean, I would have preferred to see Green Bay, but, that Seattle game, all the Seattle games have been so electric and so much fun to watch. But, of course, you want to see Green Bay as it is Seattle.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be fun. Jennifer, appreciate your time. We'll check you out on NBC Sports as your work there continues to be great. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks so much for having me on. Have a great day.
All right, thank you.